Hey, my name is Matt Storr and I repair saxophones for a living. Today I would like to show you a late 1923, early 1924 Conn New Wonder Series 1 tenor saxophone. This was made by the C.G. Conn Company in Elkhart, Indiana. This is in the last year of production of this particular model, the New Wonder Series 1. You will more often see the New Wonder Series 2, which is the model that directly followed this one. Although there were an awful lot of these made, so this is probably the earliest Conn horn that you'll see around today. So this is the New Wonder Series 1. The New Wonder Series 2 followed this one. That's what people call the Chewberry, and that's a much more well-known horn. Now the New Wonder Series 1, the easiest way to tell if you've got a New Wonder Series 1 versus a New Wonder Series 2, other than the serial number, the serial numbers for the New Wonder Series 1 went from 41,000 to around 143,000. This one is a 134,000, which puts it solidly inside the New Wonder Series 1. Is also that the G-sharp touch piece is smooth. Okay, see that G-sharp touch piece there and how that's smooth? I have a New Wonder Series 2 here in alto. And that is what, see that nail file pattern there? That is what the G-sharp looks like on a New Wonder Series 2. So that's the easiest way to tell them apart pretty much immediately. Now, the New Wonder Series 1 is a little less known, and probably with good reason. Most of these Repairman's overviews you've seen me do so far, I'm usually pretty sanguine about what I'm looking at, usually pretty positive about what I'm talking about. This, on the other hand, is one that I decided I should do actually because I don't feel super great about it. Now, they made an awful lot of these, about 100,000, so you will see these around, and they don't go for nearly as much as the New Wonder Series 2. But rather than it just being a lack of knowledge, it's actually, there's a pretty good reason for it. The key work on these is just terrible. Now, the good thing about it is the bore, okay? The inside of the saxophone, the shape of the bore. This horn in particular, and some of these I've played, really sound great. They have a beautiful tone. Intonation is not too bad, but the key work is just terrible. About a year after they started making these, Conn was sold from Colonel Conn to Carl Greenleaf, and Conn started getting much more serious about making saxophones. They made an awful lot, and this is really their first model that is, I guess, in the more modern style of saxophone making. But they didn't quite have it together. The New Wonder Series 2 is much better. And the transitional saxophones leading into the M series, the 6M, 10M, 12M, are really excellent saxophones that are built really, really good, really second to none. But these New Wonder Series 1s leave an awful lot to be desired. The key work is really poorly made, unfortunately. Just to give you kind of a visible example, if you look at this side key here, this is your side C. You can see the shape of this key. I mean, it's really very imprecise. I mean, it almost looks like the bottom part of it is curved. It's really thin here, and then it gets fat, then thin again. I mean, were they making these on a belt sander? Why would there be so much imprecision? And you can see here on the side B flat, it goes into that little guide there. The guide is way open because it doesn't align with the travel of the key. And you can see inside there, I hope, that they actually filed away a bit of the key so that it would fit inside that guide there. Now you may be saying to yourself, well, why does that matter, the shape of the keys? Well, because when you take that and that's a macro thing that's really easily visible. When you take that and you extend it down to the precision parts, the facing of the posts, the alignment of the keys, and speaking of alignment of the keys, you might be able to see on the upper stack here how none of these key arms are parallel. None of these keys were actually aligned with the tone holes, and it required a bit of bending to kind of get them so they'd be centered. And there's no reason for that. I mean, they made these keys. Like, they should pretty much have it together as far as where they put their posts, how big the keys are, and where they align. So when you take stuff like that, and you really think that it's going on throughout the entire horn, it can be very difficult to make something that wasn't built precisely in the first place be a precision instrument and therefore play at its best. And then after that, you get to the ergonomics, which are pretty bad, particularly the right hand. The pearls are very far apart, and your fingers end up being pretty spread. It almost feels oboe-like, where your fingers are a bit farther apart than they want to be. And there's not a whole lot you can really do about this because of the way it's set up. The F is just so far away from the E and the D. You can pull these over a bit, but it's really not going to do an awful lot. I pulled these over pretty far, and it's still pretty spread out. The pinky table isn't awful. It feels a lot like the older, or like the, a lot of old horns. Feels like the New Wonder Series 2. The C sharp is pretty tough because the fulcrum for the key is so close to the post, the touch piece, so you really don't get a lot of leverage. Plus you're pressing down the G sharp. And the way the G sharp mechanism is, you can't have a really, really light spring there too easily. And you can't really have a light spring on the C sharp because it'll blow open. Because the key itself is so far from the post, so it doesn't take very much force to move this here, while it does take a lot of force to move it here, even though it's on the same spring. The palm keys are pretty antiquated. They're not really super easy to get to. The E flat in particular is a very small touch piece. It's not awful. You can get to it. The front F, similar to the New Wonder Series 2s, is pretty far away and is not super comfortable to switch back and forth. You can't really roll too easily. The Bis isn't awful. It's close enough. It's got a nice big pearl on there. Unlike some of the New Wonder Series 2s, your finger can't actually go between them, which is good. The octave mechanism is not great, but you can make it work. You just have to make sure that you have no play in there so that everything acts the way it's supposed to act. So, and also the tone holes on this particular instrument were really unlevel, and as you can see, it's in pretty good physical shape. It took me about a day to get it polished this nice, but it hasn't really been knocked around too much, so I have to believe that that is original to the instrument. So my opinion is the New Wonder Series 1 that Conn made is the first instrument that Conn made, I think, that has a lot of potential, and you can really see where they're starting to go. After the company was sold to Carl Greenleaf, they hired a bunch of good guys to design their saxophones, and their saxophones got better and better until you get the M series, which were really the pinnacle of Conn's design and some of the best saxophones ever made. But sadly, the New Wonder Series 1, they're headed that direction, but they're not there yet. I would think that these saxophones would make a really good candidate for some major surgery on the keywork, perhaps even doing, cutting the body, turning it, making it into a modern horn, like with Yamaha keywork or something like that. But as far as these instruments lay, unless you're willing to deal with some ergonomic difficulties, not too bad, but really, unless your repairman is willing to deal with keywork that just seems like it was made by some guy on a sidewalk in Key West as American folk art, then you're not going to be happy, because this keywork is not made that great to start with. It's not very comfortable, but the saxophone sound that comes out of this saxophone is really nice. So I'm thinking maybe one day I'll pick one of these up and put some modern keywork on it, because I could probably get it for fairly cheap. But if you're looking for a good saxophone to make your everyday player, unless you know exactly what you're getting into on one of these horns, I cannot recommend it. The New Wonder Series 2 is just enough, it's just better by enough in the keywork department to make it, I think, a more serious contender for your cash, while the sound is, I think, equivalent or even better, because the intonation is probably a little bit better on those. So, that is my first negative overview. Oh my goodness, I hope no one gets really mad at me. This is a 1923-24 Conn New Wonder Series 1, and I have to recommend not to pick these up. They're interesting saxes, they're old saxes, they're cool saxes, but if you're actually looking to play them, if you're actually looking to repair them to a high degree, there are instruments out there where I think your dollars would go a lot farther. So, hope this was helpful, useful, informative, interesting. My name is Matt Storr. I repair saxophones for a living, and thanks for watching.